What's happening, good folks? What it do? It's your guy Craig, and welcome to this fifth entry of Charge It to the Game. And yes, I know it's been a few weeks, but don't act like y'all miss me. You see me running my mouth on other Chargers platforms every week, and it's slim pickings here in the off season. There's only so much to get into, so you got to be careful not to spread yourself too thin on content out of having to repeat things over and over again. So pop up on here when I feel like it's necessary, and I have a couple things that I definitely want to dive into today. I got to make good on something that I teased on Twitter a little bit ago, so got to make sure to do that because being a man of my word, got to come through there. And other than that, I'm going to give you a full warning right up front. If you are a Tom Telesco apologist and or fan, this probably ain't the episode for you. I'm not really going to trash dude, not trying to put him in a glad bag or anything like that. But I'm going to be honest, because there's some stuff that threw me off about his little end of season presser. And after today, I don't care to talk about any of that stuff anymore anyway, because 2022 is all pretty much upon us. If you're a Chargers fan and sitting here in postseason, well, really every other team that isn't the Bengals or Rams. So let's talk about what matters, some issues that are pressing, and a couple things that I would really like to see this offseason, and where that should put the Chargers in position for a nice 2022 run, hopefully. Let's get into it. Let's go ahead and get this out of the way, because it's probably going to take up a majority of the time. Do my best not to go in a super long rant about it, but I got some feels about this, so here we go. That Tom Telesco postseason presser, frustrating to say the least, but there's one thing about it that really got my goat, and it was the whole statement about his surprise of the defense not transitioning over as well as what he thought it would. Now, when he first said it, it didn't set me off initially, but then the more I thought about it, the more I realized, dude, are you dumb? You have a defensive system that's run by a defensive coordinator who put together pieces to fit said scheme. That happened over the course of a few years. He leaves. Many of those pieces still remain. You get a new coach who's defensive minded that runs a different scheme. You sprinkle in some pieces there, and you expected that somehow he would have it running like a well-oiled machine at some point during the season. Did you not watch your defensive line the last few years? How do you not think that that would be a problem, especially if you looked at what he had with the Rams and understood the way that that defense worked? The two most important parts are the defensive line and the secondary. Linebackers come last. And there's something that I have to say here in a little bit that might make a few people upset, but just want you to prepare yourselves for it because there's a very realistic chance that it may happen. So, as I was saying, I don't understand how in his mind he thought it was just going to work out. Now, maybe he just gave Brandon Staley a lot of credit because of what he was able to pull off with the Rams. And he maybe considered Joey Bosa, our Aaron Donald, and Derwin James, our Jalen Ramsey. When you look at names, they're all up there. But when you look at their actual positions, it makes a huge difference. Derwin James is a safety. Is he gifted, unlike many other athletes we've seen before? Yes, but he's primarily a safety. He's not a primary outside corner. He can play it. He can definitely play in the slot. But he's someone who's probably going to be most effective roaming around the box and making plays there. Joey Bosa plays one side of the field. He's an edge guy. And plays on the left side of the field. So when you look at a Jalen Ramsey who moves all around the secondary, I mean, yes, Derwin did that, but again, Jalen's an outside cornerback who can also play slot and play safety, but he's primarily a corner. And you look at Aaron freaking Donald, who you can essentially put anywhere along the defensive line, and he can wreak havoc up the middle, on the edge of it, whatever you want to do. It's just more versatility there. There was a lot more that could have been done with the Rams. And I mean, then you got your supporting players. And honestly, if you're looking at a one-to-one comparison, the Chargers may have more talent, but the Rams understand where their players best fit. And then you might ask yourself, well, hey, isn't that a coaching thing? Some of it. But then you also have to ask yourself questions like, why was it in LA when certain guys weren't performing up to par, Staley was able to pull them and put in other guys that performed better, and it didn't matter what those other guys' draft positions were. But with the Chargers, you end up in a win or go home situation against the Las Vegas Raiders, where Kenneth Murray is getting more snaps. I still can't believe that this actually happened, and that I have to say this out loud again. Then Kaiser White, and one of the explanations for it after the game was that Kenneth is probably the best coverage linebacker on the team, which nobody believed, and neither did Staley when he said it. So I hate being conspiracy theorist guy, but the truth of the matter is I feel like there are some other things involved here, and some other people in certain positions that make calls that affect the team. And the reason why that is, I'll get to here shortly. But back to this presser thing, man. I got a little bit off on a tangent there. The truth of the matter is this. When you're looking at Tom Telesco, and we just got to be honest, it's been almost a decade of mediocrity, low average performance, under 500 record as a GM. But the weird thing here is that when you criticize him, typically people take this stance of, or some people take this stance of, well, everybody's just saying that he doesn't spend money. I mean, look at what he paid Joey Bosa and Keenan Allen. And like, listen, I don't subscribe to the fact that he doesn't spend. My issue is that he's reactionary. He'll spend money. He'll fix things eventually, but only after they've crippled the team. Look at the offensive line. Why did it take so long to figure out that you need to protect your quarterback? I'm sure Phillip Rivers saw what they did last offseason and thought, that would have been nice. They wasted no time getting what Herbert needed for the most part. We know what happened with the right side of the line. Injury set in over there, but they essentially revamped the entire thing. They paid Corey Linsley, top center in the league, money, but again, doesn't say anything about the fact that Tom won't spend. It's when he does it. That's my issue. If you see an issue coming that's going to affect your team, then you get ahead of it. You don't wait until it rears its ugly head and sticks out like a sore thumb before you attempt to address it, because then you're constantly in this endless cycle of playing catch up. And that's Tom Telesco in a nutshell. The whole philosophy, because he comes from the Bill Polian tree of building your team through the draft, supplementing in pieces via free agency, developing those draft picks, and re-signing them, sounds good in theory. But in practice, Tom is pretty freaking flawed there. I mean, reaching for guys who may be available a round or two later, Trey Pipkins, or trading up for guys who don't yield the results that you would expect them to in year two, K9, or saying that you select players, at least early on, based off of best player available as opposed to need, which is a complete lie, because just go look at his drafting history in the first round. There's a lot of things that sound good on the surface, but when you actually watch how they're carried out, you realize that something's just not working out here. Now, you take the poor overall win-loss record, and then you look at the fact that he's now on his third coaching regime, and then you have to ask yourself a question. What's the constant here? The coaches change, the staff changes, some of the players change, but there's been like actually a couple constants. But we're going to talk about the face of it here. It's time. Now, on the back end, there's someone else whose name I won't mention that I think probably pulls some strings here or there. And some of you may know exactly who I'm talking about. So time may be between a rock and a hard place. Who knows? All I can tell you is that seems like the pieces change, the results mostly stay the same. And I mean, then you got to ask the question of, well, who is the real problem here? Because I don't know very many jobs where you can perform below average or mediocre and still keep your job. So I might just start calling the dude Teflon Time, because it doesn't seem like he's going anywhere anytime soon. And this season, off season, is probably make or break. I would think so. You're what? Number 2 in cap space. You got 11 draft picks, which, by the way, everyone keeps talking about those 11 picks. I hope a lot of you guys aren't expecting them to use 11 draft picks. A lot of those are 6th, 7th rounds. I forget how those comp picks are working. I think a lot of them are in the 7th. You got to make some moves with those things, man. Whether that's using a few of them in some trade scenarios to bring some new blood in, whether it's using them in the draft to move up to make some selections in earlier rounds, whatever. But you're not drafting 11 players, especially not with this team, because it's not in a rebuild. It's in a window. That's right. That thing that good old Tommy says he doesn't believe in, which everyone knows exists, and apparently he's in complete denial about. I'm not going to go into there. I'm staying away from that. You've heard me talk about that elsewhere, so I'm not going to beat you over the head with it. So, again, long story less long. At the end of the day, it's got to be a do or die offseason for Mr. Telesco. If you like him, great. Just keep patting him on the back for having great players fall in his lap and overlooking all of his blunders. I mean, if you care about him that much, who am I to judge you for it? Do your thing. As far as I'm concerned, though, this is it. I mean, I felt like he should have been going with Lynn, but we are where we are now. And there aren't any excuses after this. You are fully tooled up with all of the requisite pieces that you need to make things happen. If you don't at this point, then you're just not cut out for this gig, man. And 10 years will be more than enough time to have proved that. I'm done. And that thing that I said that people aren't going to be very happy about, I might have mentioned this already in my previous statements. When it comes to Brandon Staley's defense, the least important part of it is the second level. It's the linebacking core. Go look at what he did with the Rams year before last, who his starting linebackers were, and what that defense was still able to accomplish. So you guys know where I'm going with this, right? Kaiser White may not be brought back next year. Dude's done enough to earn the bag, and he should get it. But the fact that you saw them force feed Kenneth Murray into again, a win or go home game against the Raiders should tell you all that you need to know about what the plans for K9 are. And it probably should have signaled something to Kaiser as well. I hope I'm wrong. I really want to be wrong. There's nothing about this that's appealing whatsoever. I mean, I get it. Let's try to give Kenneth Murray the benefit of the doubt here. He had a pretty severe ankle injury, dealt with COVID. All that could play a huge factor, but let's talk about the beginning of the year. Has anyone noticed that regardless as to where he plays, he's very, very bad at shedding blocks? If you go back and look at his tape at Oklahoma, what you'll notice is he's all about run and hit. He's flowing to the ball. As long as you keep him clean, he can make some stuff happen sideline to sideline. You can blitz him. He rushes with his hair on fire. All that's great. The second he meets contact with an offensive lineman, he's pretty much stuck. Which is why, if you're going to keep him and let Kaiser walk, you better load up on interior defensive linemen. I'm talking about dudes who just have no problem eating blocks. Otherwise, you're just going to see more of the same, and it doesn't matter how healthy he is. He's not one of those read and react players either. If he has to process and then attack, then it's not going to end very well, and there are various examples of that from last season. If he doesn't see it right away, he's going to hesitate, which is going to allow offensive linemen to work up to the second level and get attached to him. Then you have to look at Drew Tranquil and his injury history. Availability has been an issue with him as well. So you're willing to let the guy who's clearly your best second level player walk to spend money where? Well, forget about where you're going to spend the money, because clearly that needs to happen on the defensive line, and they need to bring in, at least in my opinion, 2 defensive linemen in free agency. That's before we get to the draft, because I mean, Linval may not be back either, probably won't. We saw his play taper off at the end of the season, could be COVID related as well. Justin Jones, who when he's on the field performs well, but the problem is he has an issue with being on the field too. You got too many guys that you're depending on in key areas that aren't consistently on the field, then your depth better be awesome, which we all know ain't the case. Really hope I'm wrong about Kaiser, though. Just feel it in my bones. The direction looks like it's going to go. Now, there are multiple names in free agency that I would like to see the team get their hands on. I'll talk about that in videos coming down the line, but I just wanted to hop on here today to get that Telesco stuff off my chest, because it made me feel away. Listened to him talk, felt myself itch a few times, and that's just my natural reaction to things that annoy me. I get hot and itchy, and I feel the need to want to break things. So hope you guys took something from that. Again, these are just my opinions and thoughts and feelings. You don't have to agree. As a matter of fact, I don't mind Discord. Like, if you don't agree with me, perfectly fine, but just have some factual information to back up your opinions. Otherwise, you're just talking to hear yourself talk, and you can't debate facts with opinion. And with that, I appreciate you folks' time. I have rambled enough. I'm going to get some coffee, drink some water, and get prepared to watch our boy Jay Herbo start in the Pro Bowl over Patrick Mahomes. I know that pisses a lot of people off, and it's glorious. I love it. So until the next one, man, you know what it is. Have your own opinions, thoughts, and feelings. Facts will always be king. And if you feel a way about it, charge it to the game. It's your boy Craig. Catch y'all in the next one. I'm gone. Later. What's